Welcome to the PACKCAST. Our first episode we're doing, our pilot episode. This is Lufkin IC AV instructor, Mr. Caleb Beams. We got Mr. Joshua Slack, our CTE director, joining us today.
Morning.
And we have Coach Sadale Lamb, the one and only.
Good morning. Good morning.
I will ignore the fact that he has a Raiders hat on today while we're recording this, but that's Coach Lamb for you. How about my Cowboys on Sunday? That's all I'm going to say. Coach, we got you in here not to talk about NFL, but to talk about guys that could be in the NFL one day or other pro sports. Talk recruiting with you. I know this is a big thing you push on campus, have a lot of meetings with parents and students, and you were even a little late this morning trying to send some recruiting stuff off to people. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Appreciate you for having me.
All right. Now, Coach, when we set this up to do a few days ago, the recruiting world's already changed since then. We agreed to do this. You said, yeah, let's come in and let's do this first episode. And since then, the national letter of intent has gone away, we found out. There's financial aid agreements. So for you, how challenging is it to be someone in the recruiting world helping these young men and women out when you don't even know what the game's going to be from day to day?
It's pretty challenging from the high school standpoint because everybody's clamoring over the NIL and the transfer portal, but they're not paying attention to how it affects the high school students that are trying to go to college and play different sports. The transfer portal is huge. It's a great step for current college athletes, but it also kind of derails some of the high school recruiting. So that's the biggest challenge is trying to get these young women and young men on somebody's radar, I guess you could say.
All right. When you were recruited in high school, games changed a lot since then. What is the biggest thing you tell these kids about getting on that radar?
Now, the biggest thing is their self-promotion. They have to be willing to put themselves out there to be seen, especially being in Lufkin. We're geographically, challenged to say the least, because we're not really close to anything as far as a big market. So I tell them they have to put themselves first, and they have to market themselves, and it starts with social media and their social media presence and getting their highlights together, posting the highlights, sending out the highlights to help us out and gain attention.
All right. And I know social media is a big thing. When I see kids, I always tell them, hey, make sure your highlights are on social media, but also make sure your other stuff on social media is right. Correct? I mean, how big of that is it? Obviously, you can have that 5-star recruit that looks phenomenal, but if they have a social media presence that might not be what the vision of the university or the program is, those coaches probably going to back away from them.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. Well, I ain't gonna say all the time, but it happens often. A kid being a kid and not realizing their strengths and their power, and probably saying some stuff they shouldn't be saying, or retweeting or re-Xing, I guess, since they changed the name. But putting stuff out there into the universe and not understanding that it doesn't go away, and people can dig it up and people can find it and they will use it against you. So that's a challenge for sure.
So is that something you go with, each season? Do y'all talk to the men and the women about what they need to do, and if any of them need help, how they need to start that up?
Yes, sir. So I usually host, I call it an athletic and academic seminar, and it's free, don't charge. Most of the time we hold it in the Gold Gym, and we just talk about the recruiting process, what do people look for. I usually start at the D1 level because that's what everybody can relate to. And then I answer questions about, JUCO or NAI or D2, D3 when it comes about. So try to get them involved, try to get them to understand early on. I didn't get a chance to do it this year. I haven't done it yet, but I plan to.
So how early is too early
Pertaining to what?
for just the age of the student?
It's really never too early because gaining the understanding and seeing the landscape, and it's going to change, but gaining the understanding a lot of times helps out the kids and the parents to understand what they're up against. Like I tell our kids, being the best in East Texas or the best in Lufkin, that means nothing. Today's kids have social media to show other kids in their age, range or age group that are playing the same sport as them, and they're nationally recognized or they're more popular, or they're getting ranked. So you get a chance to see your competition where years past, before social media, you didn't really know what was out there. But these kids and parents can see what's out there. So it's just beneficial to know as much as you can early on.
When you look at how it's changed just from COVID, go back 2020, so 5 years now, do you think it's hurting, I wouldn't say recruiting's hurting, but there's less opportunities for high school kids at that D1 level because of COVID with the transfer years, the free year of eligibility, the transfer portal completely changing, name, image, likeness now? Is this one of those where you tell kids, hey, if the D1's not calling you, don't give up. Look at the D2, look at the JUCO, look at all that. Is that a bigger push for high school kids now?
Yes. It's definitely changed. It's definitely a bigger challenge. Ever since COVID, it's still some young men and women in college sports that were in college during COVID. They still have an extra year or whatever. It's phasing out this year. Pretty much all of them should be gone. The ones that were had that extra COVID year, but it definitely derailed high school recruiting because they started to get people back that they didn't expect they were going to have another year. And then you combine that with the evolution of the transfer portal, it's definitely hurt high school athletics as far as the recruiting process. The bigger stars, I guess you could say, in high school, the 4 and the 5 stars, they don't really have that issue to a certain degree, but it's the lesser ones that you run into that a lot with. If they don't get found pretty quickly, they won't have anywhere to go.
How important is it when you talk to parents and kids to say, hey, handle your business in the classroom? I know that's important. But to start that the freshman year, because if you have a kid come in senior year that's really good, but he hasn't handled the grades or she hasn't handled the grades since freshman year, does that make it a little bit more of a challenge to get them where they want to be? Whereas it's important from day one when you get them in here day one to say, hey, your grades are important starting day one.
That's probably the one of the biggest hurdles we always run into in recruiting in general. It doesn't matter what school you're at, is helping the kid, his family, to understand how important the grades can be. Excuse me. Because if they have a kid 2 hours away, 3 hours away, that's pretty much identical to you, and your grades are pretty bad or C average, and the other kid is not, and it's easier for them, to get that kid enrolled in the university. They don't have to wait to see if they're going to pass a certain class to be eligible, and they don't have to wait to see if they pass this class to obtain a 2.2 or 2.3 GPA, and they're going with the kid that's easier, that handles their business in the classroom. And at the end of the day, when that happens, there's nobody to blame except for the young man or young woman, because you are in the classroom, you have the opportunities to do right and handle your grades and put yourself in a better position. So the maturity factor kicks in when it comes to that. Some kids mature later. They don't get it to their junior, but they don't realize how many core classes they've taken their freshman and sophomore years that affect that. And it's hard to bounce back depending on how low the grades were. So it's definitely a challenge. We want the individuals to understand early on to give yourself a better opportunity. You got to handle the grades up front.
Sorry, we're still trying to figure out our audio on these mics. and I lost my train of thought there. So we talked about grades. We talked about the portal changing things. In your years of recruiting, we can go personal stories here maybe for a minute. Was there one kid, like I know you had your hands in a lot of recruiting. Eric McCoy, Kiki Kuti, Jalen Polk, Natasha Mack over at the WNBA now. You've had your hands in that, but those are the big names we know. Is there one kid that maybe someone doesn't know about when you look back and say, this is one of my more proud moments to see that kid get an offer when they didn't think they were going to get one, or they came into the sport just playing it to have fun and then realize they're good at it? Is there one kid that maybe someone doesn't know at Lufkin that you just kind of hold close to you, seeing how you helped them?
Let's see. I'd go with the most recent one, Evan Young. Sticking out and pushing through the process and trusting the process and letting his work speak for itself. And he just pulled off a big offer yesterday from Michigan State. So that was an awesome moment to see his face when the coaches offered him, and see his mom's face and the embrace, and that's what it's really all about. So I'd go with that.
And you bring up the mom. How important is it to have parents, whether it's both parents, a single parent, the grandparents, and uncle, to have someone advocating for the student as well from the home side? So it's not just all put on y'all. I'm not saying that y'all don't take that responsibility on, but how important is it to have someone in their corner from home as well?
It's important because they deal with a lot of this stuff when they come back and do a home visit. When they go on their official visits, that's typically who they're taking with them, is the mom or dad or aunt, uncle, grandmother, grandfather, someone of that nature. So it's important for them to be keyed in and dialed in and ask questions. Keidron Young's mom was great at that. If she didn't know, she was going to ask, or she was going to find out and make sure I was up to speed, and she would find out different stuff I didn't know and relay it back to me. So it's really all about communication when it comes down to that.
You got anything, Josh?
No, just keep listening to him. A lot of great information. I remember you speaking, man, it was pre-COVID. I heard you speak once about it. The academic part really hits hard with a lot of these students, just to realize, you can be a phenomenal athlete, but if your grades aren't right, they're not going to give you the time of day.
Right.
They'll take a kid that's an average looking kid, but has good work ethic, works hard, makes good grades, and they know they can take that child and, progress them to be that player they need them to be. Maybe if it's down the road, year 2, 3, 4, there's a lot of opportunity there. Maybe can you speak a little bit on, I don't know if some of the kids that might be listening, it's not all about full rides, and how there's other different aspects of how the kids can go to that college that they would like to go, and maybe the better opportunity is to go somewhere smaller.
All right. That's definitely a thing we run into. The perception that it's D1 a bust is a terrible perception, but it's a reality that some people have developed over the years, and it's more so out of ignorance, as you will, downplaying junior college offer, downplaying a Division II offer just because it's not Division I. You lose opportunity doing that, and everything that you see isn't a full ride. That's why the whole signing day thing is kind of funny, and that's why knowingly a lot of people, not necessarily here, but just people in general across America that were involved in different sports, dislike signing day, because you had some kids that was quote unquote signing, and they're signing to a university that does not and can't give athletic scholarships. So it's like, what are you signing? But I get the process of it and the look of it, and you want that for the kids, so it's for them. So no big deal this way. But a lot of offers that you see aren't full rides. It's just the reality. Now it's about to change because NCAA has increased the number of scholarships in all of sports, but they kind of go make it harder too, in a sense, because, for example, Right now, most major D1 football teams carry 120 players on their roster. Next year, and then in the spring, um, during spring football and stuff, they can get up to 130, 140 because there's no restrictions in the spring. But starting next year, they can only carry 105. So if you look on paper, NCAA has went to from 85 scholarships at D1 to 105. And you're like, okay, well, all the kids are gonna be covered. You know, if they can dress out 105, they got 105 scholarships. You know, they can. Everybody's gonna be full ride. That's not how it's gonna go. You'll have 85 to maybe 90 full, and then the rest are gonna be partial. So basically, what they did was they turned football into an equivalency sport, that's what baseball and all the other sports were. Well, not all, but most of the other sports were. Track and field was combined with cross country. And for example, baseball is going from 11.7 scholarships. So they were breaking theirs down into percentages. Kid might get 45%, this kid might get 75. Really good kids they want to keep might get 90, 95, maybe 100, which is super rare, but they might get that. They're going from 11.7 to 34. The only issue with that is most D1 baseball rosters carry 40 kids. So you're going each D1 school is losing 6 kids pretty much because of that. And so it's like, where do those kids go? And then you look at the college football, they can carry 105, but right now most of them have 120. So most of them, you know, it's over 130 D1 schools. So you times that times 15, where do those kids go? And so it's going to be a lot of moving parts, and that's where it really hurts the high school recruiting, because you're getting extra scholarships, but you're losing roster spots. So they're pretty much almost going to have to do away with the preferred walk-ons and the walk-on spots, just because it's no room for them anymore, because they're not allowing them to carry that amount of players. So it's important to understand what school is offering you, what can they offer you, what they're allowed to offer you. I encourage all athletes, especially if you're getting a D3 NAIA school, have them send you a financial aid breakdown or financial sheet breakdown of what your estimate would be when you enroll, because a lot of times people hear offer and they think full ride, and then you get one from a school that can't offer that, and you find out their tuition is $40,000 a year, and then they show you they're giving you this player aid and this, and this. Like, okay, well, they giving me $30,000 in aid, so that's good. Like, yeah, but where's the other 15,000 coming from?
Sounds like I'm trying to buy a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that or I've heard the horror stories out there from D3 kids saying they signed up and it's all great, and then they get the loan paper and they realize I'm on the hook for all this loan money, and I can't afford that. I got a single mom back home taking care of me and brothers, sisters. How do I do this? And so they quickly have to back out of those deals and go find somewhere. Is that why you think it's important going back to the grades, where you can say, hey, have your grades good and apply for these academic scholarships as well, because you might not get that full ride, but if you get X amount paid for by academic side, add that into your scholarship side, that might be $2,000 that you got to figure out, and that's better than nothing.
All right. That's the other part of it that it kind of plays into. And sometimes the kids that get those offers from the D3s and the NAIA schools, if their grades aren't up to par, they don't get that opportunity. Where you have a kid that took care of their business in the classroom, and they might get certain aid from the school, and then they can get academic scholarships because they handled their business in their top, 25% in their class and stuff like that, instead of being in the bottom 25% and not eligible for any academic aid. So when you're talking about schools like that typically can't and don't offer full rides, the academics comes in and plays a huge part in that.
We've talked a lot about the recruiting process and what they need to know in their grades. Talk about name, image, likeness. I know that's a big part of it now. Are there warnings you're giving out to kids here on campus about that, saying, you know, do this or that, or don't do this or that when it comes to that? I know we've had some big time recruits come through here, but this is all still new. So, what are things that coaches that y'all are telling kids about the name, image, likeness stuff as they prepare for that next level?
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it, because it's too much gray area in the state of Texas in regards to NIL and what you can and can't do and what you can make money off of, and it's something you don't want to hop into if you don't have the full knowledge. And what you end up getting is a lot of I guess sponsors, agents, whatever, try to reach out to these high school kids and convince them to, do something like selling shirts, and telling them it's okay, but they don't have the paperwork to back it up. And it's not a situation that we want to get into and mess up the kids' future, when they could simply wait, a semester or a year, and then they could do it at the university that they're at.
I know the UIL, you brought it up. The UIL is against name, image, likeness. Not UIL, sorry. The Coach Association is against name, image, likeness. Let's get the right group in there. Other states have it. Are you concerned as a coach if NIL came into Texas that it kind of messes up the high school game and what Texas is known for with community support and all that?
Oh, it's definitely gonna mess some things up. If we gonna be honest, it's already messed up because you have so much going on and so many moving parts with some of these kids, specifically in more so in certain sports than others, like basketball and football. There's people across the state that almost openly recruit kids, and they get them into their schools, and you got kids coming from different states. You got inner city kids rotating schools, and it's a big mess, and UIL can't do anything about it for the most part. So it's like if you start throwing money in there, that's gonna make it worse. And all you're gonna see is if a team is organically, dominating, that's fine. If they developed in situations have made it to where certain kids have to end up at their school and stuff like that, it's cool. But if it's blatantly, trying to take kids away from their program and bring them to yours because they're already a 5-star and already a big recruit, and you want them on your team, that's a different story. So basically, you would probably see a bunch of that. You'd probably see most of the bigger name schools that already exist in Texas are going to stay at the top because most of them have money in their towns and or their alumni. So I think it'll be a mess. They might iron it out after a few years, but the very beginning part of it is probably going to look like the NCAA when they opened it up, because they still haven't figured that out. So
Now, is it still the same that if a child moves in, that they have to sit out for X number of days, or is that done away with as well?
no, you still have the 15-day rule.
Okay.
And you have to have to sit out a year depending, but a lot of it is subjective. They have rules in place, and some of the stuff is concrete, but when you run into the issues is open enrollment districts, and like for example, and it's no knock on them, but you see a lot of the powerhouses in Texas are in the Dallas area. That's because they have open enrollment. So you'll see a kid at a school, this year, and it's a great player or whatever, and then they'll bounce to another school, and it's no penalty. They don't have to sit out 15 days or sit out a year because of the open enrollment deal. So it's it's not a level playing field when it comes to that, but that's that district's choice, and that's the area's choice, so they have a right to it. So they're not doing anything wrong, but you can see how it tilts the power scale. But yeah, those things still are in place as far as the 15 days and the year, sit out a year deal.
So we've gone through a lot in the last 25 minutes. We'll get wrapping this up soon, but just one more question for you. Biggest takeaway you would tell a parent if a parent comes to you now, or a kid, parent, grandparent, and says, I want to go play college sports and I've not started yet. Where do we start, and what is the number one thing I need to do to make it back? We've said a lot of things, but what is that biggest thing where you say this is the starting point and we go from there up?
A lot of times it depends on what grade they're in. If they're younger, I'd encourage them to go to camps over the summer, like legit camps, not this we babysitting camp and it's gonna cost you $500. No. Most of the legit camps don't even really cost that much. You'll pay $50 and under, depending. So I would encourage them to go to camps, go out and be seen, because a lot of the camps now are ran by college coaches, and so they're the ones that recruit you. So go be seen by them. I encourage even the parents and the kids that don't play that much and blame coaches. And take your child to a camp and let them perform in front of the college coach. Nobody's holding them back at that camp to perform against their contemporaries. They got that opportunity. So if they can go perform and catch the coach's eye, then there's your opportunity right there. And nobody's quote unquote holding you back or nothing of that nature. So I would encourage the kids to do that, handle their business in the classroom, and social media presence. Have your highlights done the right way. Post them. Follow the right people. Don't retweet certain stuff. Clean up your social media, but that and work hard. And don't worry about what other people are doing. But if you say that's what you want to obtain, then you have to have the work ethic to go, to match it. So all I can do is compare to what I've seen. I can tell a kid how hard Jalen Pope worked. I can tell a kid how hard Kiki Kuti worked, and Jaren Thompson, and we could go off to ones that worked on that level or didn't obtain that level of success collegiately or professionally. But those individuals worked. So work ethic, grades, social media, camps, things like that.
So when you say social media, is there one that's better than the other, or one's to you tell the kids, hey, you really need to stay away from this platform?
The best one is the most toxic one, which is Twitter or X. That's still, in terms of recruiting and posting highlights and followers, it's still at the top.
So do they tag universities and?
They could, or not so much the university page, but more so the coach's page or the assistant coach. The thing is, everything takes, all it takes is a little effort. If you can go to University of Houston's page right now, go to their football team's page, and they're gonna have their coach's email address, they're gonna have their coach's Twitter handle, which is their Twitter name, and it's going to be online. So it's easy to find, you just have to put in the work to go find it. And so when you're doing your highlights, post it. And then it's also other pages that are dedicated to recruiting, whether it's basketball, football, highlight reel pages that have 100,000 plus followers that coaches follow and other recruiting people follow. So
Football has huddle. Does basketball as well?
They do, and volleyball too. I'm not sure about baseball and softball. I think they use something else. I can't remember what it's called. But basketball for sure, and volleyball for sure. We have huddle that we can use to help, create highlights. And they recently, over year or so ago, however long, they added a recruiting deal on Huddle to where you can find schools and find the coaches and send the highlights directly to them. Now, whether they check it or not, that's a whole nother issue, but you can at least attempt, you know, you can put forth the effort to try. And so we just went over that the other day with our football guys, showing them how to do that. So.
I appreciate it. Coach, thank you. I know it's been a good day for you out here. Good week. Get some recruiting done here. We have a lot of people coming in out of campus, especially with the football team doing so good. So we appreciate it. And thank you, Mr. Slack, for joining us. And as we start this new effort with the PACKCAST, we'll just keep in touch with us. Oh, before we leave, Coach, how do they get a hold of you? Lufkin parents that listen to this, middle school parents, any of them that say, hey, my kid's coming up in a few years, how is the best way to get a hold of you or whoever in this athletic facility to get what they need?
Well, best way in person, because I'm always around, though. They'll see me everywhere, at the middle school, you know, obviously over here at the high school. My number hasn't changed in over 20 years, so it's out there and easy to get. Email is online, you know, slam@lufkinisd.org. You can email me. And then social media, you can message me on there, on Twitter or places like that. So, or call up to the school, leave a message there, get it to me and tell me that whomever wants to talk to me, and I'll call you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Our first edition of the PACKCAST. Hopefully we have more coming. We got all this equipment, so we better have them coming. But just stay tuned with us on our social media pages, on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.